Doamna doctor, cum ajung pacienții la consultație? Ce simptome au? Cum se manifestă depresia?
Avem mai multe variante. Unii nu știu. Cum a spus doamna doctor în emisiunea trecută. Vin cu genunchiul,
afecțiuni.
Și noi ajungem să le spunem și află de la noi cu stupoare că au depresie. Unii o neagă, spun nu e adevărat, eu n-am așa ceva. Și atunci noi spunem așa, uitați, aici scrie că sunteți obosită. Da, oboseala. Aici zice că nu prea dormiți bine. Da, insomnia. Spune că sunteți o persoană care în ultimul timp sunteți cam tristă. Uitați, nivelul de serotonină este scăzut. Într-adevăr că nu sunt într-o perioadă bună a mea. Bun. Asta înseamnă depresie. Poate să fie o depresie emoțională, că nu este o depresie de aceea că de ce știm că nu este foarte gravă, pentru că n-a început un tratament psihiatric. Știți, ca idee, n-a ajuns acolo. Dar este o depresie destul de, cum să vă zic, mugurii au început, adică de aici până la pasul următor nu e mult. Când a început insomnia sau atacurile de panică, deja lucrurile se precipită. Și atunci poate e momentul potrivit, poate că a venit la noi într-un moment potrivit. Iar la alții, încep direct cu anxietate, adică știu că au anxietate, știu că au insomnie, au aflat că au depresie și știu acest lucru și vin pentru depresie. Și a treia categorie sunt pacienți vechi cu depresie, cu boli psihice, care se tratează de 5, 7, 9 ani de zile și a căror și n-au rezultate, pentru că lucrul acesta, tratamentul acesta nu le-a dus la o stare de îmbunătățire. Nu mai au creativitate, sunt niște persoane foarte triste și atunci încearcă variante și se leagă cumva, se agață de noi, încercând că noi am promis, am spus că putem să vindecăm depresia. Așa o mare surpriză, noi chiar putem. Și propun să vedem un filmuleț în care să vedem aceste cauze ale depresiei și în special anxietatea, care este unul din cauzele principale sau una din manifestările principale.
Let's suppose a person is forecasting or expecting an event to happen based on some trauma that's happened in the past. As they begin to anticipate the event, as they begin to expect it, as they begin to get ready for it, as they begin to think about that future event, they begin to release the chemicals that prepare their body for the event ahead of the actual event. Now, when we begin to anticipate events and we get it right, we pat ourselves on the shoulder and we say, you see how smart I am? You need to hang out with me. I know all the answers. But what happens when we don't get it right? And when we don't get it right, that's called anxiety, that's called insomnia, that's called obsessive compulsive disorders, because the brain begins to race into the future. And that racing process over time literally puts the memory in the body, and it now sits in a subconscious program separate from the conscious mind.
If you're experiencing anxiety, that's a symptom that something's wrong. You need to change something. Now, it might be something you can address by learning new life skills, and that you can learn some techniques in various and sundry ways of managing your life better and getting over the anxiety. But the anxiety triggers you to the awareness that you've got an emotional holding pattern that needs to be addressed.
Taking a pill does not address the underlying emotional patterns. All it is doing is putting a plaster over a wound that will continue to fester. A few years back now, I was strangled to the point where I couldn't breathe, and for 2 weeks I couldn't swallow liquids, I couldn't eat foods, and eventually the emotions that arose from that were significant and they needed to be addressed. Taking medication addresses the symptoms. It does not address the underlying root cause.
I have one anxiety client that I'm working with now. She's made a lot of progress, but you know, part of her anxiety started when she was run over by a car as a pedestrian that was running 100 kilometers an hour. And she lived through it, which is a miracle in and of itself, but she cannot count the number of bones that were broken or the number of internal organs that were damaged. And she woke up anxious out of that. Now, the doctors did a miraculous job of patching her up, but there was still more healing to do. And even a couple of years after the accident, she still had scars that were angry and red and not healing, and aches and pains in so many different areas of her body, and other organs that still really weren't functioning well. And so her metabolism was off and her immune system was off. And her anxiety was a symptom that she needed help.
So how do we get help? If our bodies are so infinitely intelligent that we can self-heal, then why are there so many medications and a pill for every symptom? Our mind is brilliant. In fact, so much of the health and disease that we experience in life is directly linked to the perceptions that we hold in our mind. So are we really educated enough about the medications that we're using? I wonder what would happen if we understood the keys to wellness rather than the cure to illness.
It's important to understand that we do not have mental illness, but rather that we do mental illness. It is an internal process of our thinking and feeling that creates the states of the likes of depression and anxiety, or the other 300 labels of mental illness according to the DSM.
I find it very interesting that there are so many medications for so many so-called psychological disorders, and yet there are no definitive tests for it. There are no blood tests, there are no chemical imbalance tests, there's no x-ray, there's no biopsy. All that happens is someone sits down and talks to someone and then they decide what medication to give.
You know, if you have a problem with your heart, you go to the doctor and you get a heart scan. A problem with your gallbladder, you go to the doctor and they do an ultrasound and scan your gallbladder to determine what's happening with it. Most people have a problem with anxiety or depression or psychosis, and they go to the doctor and the doctor says, well, try this and let's see how it works. So we're doing guesswork about the brain, and then the person says, well, you know, I've lost my libido, I'm suicidal, and you know, my hair's falling out. Well, okay, we'll try something else, you know, so, or take more.
The number of pharmaceutical drugs is up in the hundreds of thousands. So, you know, I question, is the focus really on research and wellness? If we know that lifestyle is the cause of illness, then shouldn't we be doing things like shutting down the fast food outlets and focusing on educating wellness rather than medicating illness?
Deci trebuie să căutăm tiparele emoționale disfuncționale. Pentru că, de fapt, noi, să zicem, imităm, ați văzut că e o stare de hipnoză pe care are copilul și noi copiem prin hipnoză aceste tipare emoționale, deci practic ce copiem? Copiem modul cum funcționează părinții noștri la nivel comportamental, dar și emoțional. Dacă mama are frică și are lipsă de încredere, copilul are la fel, frică și lipsă de încredere. Dacă tata și dacă mama nu e iubitoare, dacă mama nu este iubitoare, copilul are frică. Este foarte clar. De ce? Pentru că, de fapt, în lipsa iubirii apare frica. Deci frica este rezultatul lipsei de iubire, lipsei iubirii. N-ar exista pe terra frică și anxietate și nici depresii dacă nu ar fi în iubire. Acum, problema este cum ajungem noi în iubire. Păi noi am ajunge în iubire dacă ne-am duce la reperul divin. Că vedeți, noi nu mai lucrăm după reperul original, că noi trebuie să știm că originalul nostru este, de fapt, noi avem 3 părinți, cum ar veni. Adică mama, tata și Doamne, Doamne. Și dacă primii părinți, adică ai noștri, cei pământești, da, care ne dau trupul, lutul, nu ne învață de bine, cum ar veni, adică ne învață greșit, nu pentru că ei sunt rău intenționați, că ne iubesc, ci pentru că așa i-au învățat și pe ei părinților. Atunci, noi, dacă aici nu e bine și trebuie să ne prindem, cam pe la 40 de ani, trebuie să ne prindem că nu e bine. De ce? Pentru că nu avem rezultate. Au alții mai buni decât noi și atunci nu trebuie să ne supărăm. Hai să vedem ce au ăia. Și ori au avut niște părinți care, să zicem, că au fost mai luminați, adică niște părinți care au avut informații despre cum să se comporte cu ei sau au avut niște tipare mai aproape de original, sau dacă nu, să căutăm tiparul original. Și la tiparul original arată așa: iubire, încredere și curaj.
Practic, noi așteptăm de la ceilalți iubire, când noi avem toate ingredientele necesare ca să funcționăm în armonie. Practic, legătura cu sursa, esențială.
Deci ne putem lua iubire de sus oricând. Deci sus avem așa, un fel de rezervor imens de iubire și numai că noi întrerupem robinetul. Noi nu știm să lucrăm cu acel robinet, câteodată se închide singur, pentru că nu mai băgăm în seamă. Pentru că ne uităm la ceva, în loc să ne uităm în sus, noi ne uităm în jos. Și aici trebuie să înțelegem că și sentimentul acesta de vinovăție care ni se impune de la partea asta de aliniere, să zicem, de la partea asta socială, până și în biserică stăm cu capetele plecate, nu este un lucru bun. Nu avem de ce să stăm, pentru că noi nu trebuie să ne uităm în pământ. către iad. Noi trebuie să ne uităm către cer. Și când ne uităm către cer, uitați, așa avem o poziție de lideri. Știți? Depinde unde ne uităm. Acum, este vorba deci despre emoții. Avem emoții greșite. Dacă vorbim despre emoții, trebuie să vorbim despre minte. Că sursa emoțiilor este legată de gândurile noastre. De obicei, corpul acesta emoțional și corpul mental, adică ego, personalitatea noastră, sunt în mare legătură. Se spune că gândurile noastre, că noi avem un fel de radio, am vorbit în alte emisiuni, avem un fel de radio în capul nostru care este mintea noastră. Și care vorbește mult. Și câteodată vorbește și prost. Și atunci trebuie să știți că dacă noi nu avem gânduri bune, adică avem gânduri greșite, adică cu nu în față, sau că nu suntem buni, că nu e bine, că nu avem încredere, că așa, de minimizare, atunci emoțiile corespunzătoare acestor gânduri sunt emoții rele. Adică sunt emoții greșite, sunt emoții de teamă, emoții de neîncredere, corespunzătoare gândurilor.
Și percepem greșit mediul înconjurător.
Da, că noi, știți, cu același, deci la aceeași secvență, să zicem, unii putem să interpretăm într-un fel secvența respectivă, iar alții care avem o gândire pozitivă putem să interpretăm altfel secvența pozitivă. Știți? Adică până și o boală. Cineva spune, aoleu, de ce am primit această boală, nenorocitul de mine? Cineva spune, boala asta e o oportunitate pentru mine ca să cresc, hai să vedem ce anume îmi transmite boala. Poziții diferite. Înțelegeți? Depinde cum știm să privim fenomenul respectiv, dar ochii aceștia de a privi sunt legați mai mult de conștiință decât de minte. Trebuie să începem să lucrăm cu conștiința. Și acum e foarte important să începem să vedem că noi, dacă am monitoriza gândurile și nu prea putem și emoțiile, dacă am inventa aparate care să monitorizeze gândurile și emoțiile și să vedem că emoțiile nu sunt foarte bine, am putea să vedem că aceste emoții greșite ne vor duce la boli și am putea să depistăm bolile, am putea să vedem care sunt aparatele la ora asta pe piață care pot depista emoțiile noastre foarte mult. Nu prea avem. Medicina holistică lucrează cu electrosomatograful, e unul din puținele aparate care ne arată partea emoțională, pentru că noi aici, și avem martori, mii de pacienți, sau nu zeci de mii de pacienți, care au stat în fața noastră și în momentul în care noi două începem să vorbim și le spunem, fără să-i întrebăm nimic, că sunt așa, că sunt așa, că sunt așa, este așa, că se lasă o tăcere. De ce? Pentru că spunem adevărul. Și nu cunoaștem pacientul. Și persoana care îl însoțește începe să dea din cap. Așa este, așa este, așa este. Adică devine stupefiat la un moment dat. Deci, știți, așa este. Dar de ce? Pentru că avem aparate care ne pot da aceste informații despre emoții. Deci, vine pacientul în fața noastră și noi spunem exact felul de personalitate și cu ce emoții lucrează, ca și când îi citim în cărți. Dar nu îi citim în cărți, este știință. Și cine studiază eneagrama, că noi am studiat eneagrama, cine știe să lucreze în homeopatie, unde se lucrează cu emoții și cu felul de personalitate, poate foarte ușor să descifreze tot ce, cu ajutorul aparatului, bineînțeles, poți să descifreze, de fapt, care este personalitatea din fața ta și să știe exact cu ce emoții lucrează. Deci, practic, noi am putea, dacă începe să vedem aceste emoții, să lucrăm cu ele. Și acum, de ce sunt aceste emoții greșite? Pentru că sunt tipare greșite. Și atunci ar trebui să lucrăm cu individul, așa cum facem noi aici, cu pacientul, și să îl întrebăm, eu așa fac, cel puțin. Îi spun, uite, dumneata ai o problemă că ești o persoană care nu crezi, dacă am o femeie. Îi spun, dumneavoastră sunteți o persoană care ar trebui să lucrați cu partea feminină mai mult și cu partea masculină mai puțin. Că știți, noi avem yin-yang și ar trebui să avem 50% femeile yin și 49% yang. Și îi întreb, dumneavoastră cum credeți că lucrați, cu yin sau cu yang? Cam cu yang, zice doamna. Și e bine, nu e bine? Ori, acum, ce înseamnă că lucrezi cu yang? Înseamnă că nu lucrezi cu armele femeii din tine, ci lucrezi cu furie, cu frică, care sunt un fel de ale bărbatului. Bărbatul e puțin mai agresiv, mai... Ori, atunci înseamnă că, i-am spus, cred că sunteți în travesti? Că așa arată, sunteți o femeie care vă dați bărbat și sunteți femeie, adică hotărâți-vă ce sunteți, femeie sau bărbat, care trebuie să fiți femeie. Bun, dar din modelul acesta de lipsă de feminitate, dacă sunteți femeie, trebuie să vă comportați, cine trebuia să vă învețe să fiți femeie? Păi mama. Păi și mama dumneavoastră cum e? Păi mama a condus în casă. Dacă mama a condus în casă, înseamnă că mama a fost bărbatul casei. I-a hotărat, nu? Și atunci, de acolo a plecat yang-ul. De acolo a plecat un yang alterat, modificat. Deci, mama ei n-a putut să o învețe să fie femeie și să tacă câteodată, poate. că prin această tăcere poți să dai energie bărbatului, nu pentru că ești proastă sau pentru că nu ești bună sau pentru că trebuie să taci că spune cineva ceva la gură, ci pentru că această tăcere face parte din acest echilibru potențator pe care trebuie să-l dea femeia bărbatului și să-l susțină și să-l încurajeze și să-l facă pe el cumva să fie puternic, împiedicându-se ea. Știți, cumva. Și face parte din armele femeii. Dacă o femeie știe să lucreze cu soțul ei, cu bărbatul ei și știe să-l potențeze și știe să se lase ea un pic mai jos ca el să câștige de fiecare dată, trebuie să știți că această energie numită iubire e o energie, cum să zic, feminină, flexibilă, este o energie, nu? Receptivă, de fapt, este yin,
de tip yin.
Da, de tip yin, puternică, ea atunci crește yang-ul lui. Și de aceea se spune că fiecare bărbat are puternic, are o femeie puternică, o femeie care știe să-l potențeze. Dacă ne uităm cum arată femeile din spatele bărbaților puternici, trebuie să știți că sunt niște femei puternice care știu să și tacă când e cazul. O femeie inteligentă tace când e cazul. Știți? Dacă noi nu știm să facem acest lucru, că foarte multe depresii apar în cupluri. Am ales acest exemplu pentru că avem depresii, apar de obicei pe probleme financiare, da? Și avem o societate care oferă aceste perspective de faliment, de șomaj, de diverse, da? De sărăcie. Dar avem și o societate care, datorită faptului că femeile au ajuns să fie un pic mai mult bărbați decât femei, adică nu tot datorită societății. Da. Încercând să facă față, fiindcă bărbatul nu face față financiar, femeia se duce la servici și ea se duce și ea să facă rost de bani, pentru că de fapt nu mai se ajung banii. Și atunci, în loc să stea să se ocupe, nu spun să stea acasă și să facă focul, da? Ca idee. Nu mai suntem în acea perioadă, dar totuși femeia ar trebui să aibă niște joburi mai soft, ar trebui mai feminine, adică nu să lucreze cod la cod cu bărbații, pentru că la ora asta femeile lucrează și s-au dus așa peste segmentul ăsta masculin, nu?
Și să se ocupe foarte mult de creșterea copiilor, pentru că în condițiile de astăzi, lucrând de dimineață până seara, copilul
e al nimănui, e al bonei. Și bona poate să fie perfectă pentru copil, dar nu-i dă iubire. Că n-are cum să-i dea iubire, că copilul până la 7 ani are cordon energetic cu mama. Poate să fie bunica, poate să fie bona, poate să fie rudele. Deci copilul se simte neiubit cu toate, cum să zic, cu tot ce este în jur, pentru că el are cordon energetic de la mamă. Nu-i dă mama iubire că n-are timp, că este stresată și e în depresie, mama, ca idee. Trebuie să știți că și copilul intră în depresie, că vorbim de depresie la copii. Acum, noi beneficiem de acest aparat și eu aș recomanda ca aceste aparate de genul acesta să fie cumva la dispoziție pentru toți medicii. Așa ar trebui. Noi ar trebui să facem investiții serioase în aparatură și în corpul medical, ca să putem să nu mai avem depresii. Ne plânge că avem depresii.
Pentru depistare, deci pentru prevenție,
da.
Dar cât și pentru tratament, în condiții naturale.
Deci noi ar trebui, de fapt, ce ar trebui să facem? Este că ar trebui, în loc să dezvoltăm industria farmaceutică cu tratamente antidepresive, că noi asta facem. Sunt sute de mii de farmacii, că sunt mai multe farmacii decât locuri de unde ne cumpărăm pâinea. Înțelegeți? Și atunci am dezvoltat atâtea farmacii în care sunt foarte multe tratamente antidepresive și noi băgăm în noi tratamente antidepresive și am ajuns să fim dependenți de ele și am ajuns ca societate să câștigăm bani.
Care, de fapt, tratamente tratează simptomul, nu se duc la cauză. E esențial.
Acum, ce este important, că ele sunt și ineficiente. Pentru că în momentul în care vin pacienții la noi, trebuie să știți că chiar pacienții vechi, care sunt tratați, ar trebui, dacă sunt tratați de mult, să cam fie vindecați. Că au dat oamenii bani, știți? Deci i-au dat banii pe tratament, ar trebui ca acel tratament, dacă este vindecător, ar trebui să vindece depresia. Dar atunci de ce vorbim de 9 ani de tratament? Știți? Și atunci, noi ce facem? Noi observăm că după ce vin cu tratamentele astea de ceva timp, la noi arată că au depresie în continuare, adică ea n-a fost vindecată, a fost decât, hai să zicem, acoperită. Da? A fost blocată, dar nu e vindecată. De desubt e aceeași depresie din ce în ce mai mult, că știți cum arată sufletul unui pacient în depresie de 9 ani de zile? Pot să vă spun? Ca sub un clopot de sticlă. Nu-l aude nimeni și el urlă de disperare sufletească pe interior. Cere ajutor. și nu-l aude nimeni. Așa arată, pentru că nu-l aude nimeni. Pentru că nimeni nu-l vindecă. Sufletul acela trăiește, dar e suferind. E o suferință imensă și ne gândim de ce ajungem în celelalte vieți cu suferință sufletească, pentru că nu ne-am vindecat. Dar ce ar fi de făcut este să începem să depistăm aceste depresii și să le tratăm. Și începem un tratament pe sub tratamentul antidepresiv, pe care nu-l întrerupem, că nu avem voie, că nu putem, că e în dependență pacientul. Și apoi încet cu rezultate, tratăm cu dantiene aici, știți. Am început să tratăm cu dantiene, tratăm de asemenea cu vibrații pe toate meridiane, tratăm chakrele, tratăm remedii florale în bac, deci tratăm profund, tratăm pe 3 focare, deci tratăm pur și simplu depresia foarte bine, cu rezultate excepționale, vreau să vă spun. Și noi o să fim neobosite să spunem că tratăm depresia natural până când lumea medicală va pricepe acest lucru, că noi suntem exemplu. Și cine are o problemă să vină să-i arătăm că noi chiar tratăm. Și e păcat să, la ora asta, psihiatrii să nu înceapă să folosească tratamente naturale. Eu am avut un medic psihiatru care a venit la mine să-l tratez natural. Și am explicat, doamna doctor, dar n-ar trebui să-i tratăm și pe ceilalți care tratați dumneavoastră tot așa? Înțelegeți? Acum ar trebui să începem să vedem că dacă am avea la dispoziție aparate sau medicii ar avea la dispoziție aparate cum avem noi două, am vedea o patologie renală foarte aproape la toți pacienții cu depresie. Există o patologie renală. Adică pot să fie calcul renal, adică pot să fie, de exemplu, chisturi renale, pot să fie, de exemplu, infecții renale. Și depresia este legată de partea aceasta cu rinichiul. Da? Puteți să explicați de ce?
Da, pentru că în subordinea rinichiului din punct de vedere energetic intră creierul, oasele,
Da. Știți că mi-ați povestit când ne-am întâlnit prima dată, noi două fiind acupuncturiste, doamna doctor spunea, doamna doctor, dar e normal să fie tratată depresia cu probleme, cu tratament pentru rinichi. Știți de ce? Că în acupunctura chinezească, de fapt, se consideră craniul un fel de os, tot craniul, și de fapt creierul un fel de măduvă. Și de fapt șeful sau cel care ordonează, de fapt, nu? Că așa ați venit. Zice, da, e normal. Zice, cel care coordonează oasele în corp și măduva, cine credeți că este? Esența rinichiului. Și atunci, de câte ori este o problemă la nivelul creierului, el fiind considerat un fel de măduvă la nivelul osului numit craniu, noi trebuie să ducem repede la rinichi. Și pun pariu pe cât vreți la toți pacienții care au depresie că au ceva la rinichi. Poți să aibă și un blocaj energetic dacă n-au un fizic, cum am eu un pacient acum de care v-am povestit în pauză. Dar trebuie să știți că, în afară de patologia renală, care, apropo, dă și partea de teamă, de anxietate, care este caracteristică depresiei, că de fapt este normal să fie așa, avem și o patologie vasculară cardiacă. Pentru că ce mai înseamnă depresia? Depresia înseamnă, pe lângă anxietate, înseamnă și niște probleme la nivelul vaselor sanguine cerebrale. Că acolo e depresia, e la cap. Cum arată pe electrosomatograf depresia aici, arată că este o zonă așa foarte mare albastră. Adică acolo este vasodilatație, este foarte mult sânge adunat în vasele creierului, abundă sângele, pur și simplu este creierul inundat în sânge. Este un sânge care, dacă este foarte mult, ca inundații.
Practic, afectarea circulației și a inimii denotă lipsa de iubire.
Exact. Lipsa de iubire, că asta vreau să spun. Și, deci, cu alte cuvinte, depresia este așa, multă teamă și fără iubire. Și, de fapt, același lucru spus altfel în toate formele. Și ce facem noi ca să închei, nu știu, să vedem, o să mai punem un filmuleț cu care o să facem finalul, este că ce ar trebui să începem să vedem este că depresia este legată de lipsa de afectivitate și că dacă noi vrem să transformăm la nivel de societate și să nu mai avem aceste depresii, care depresia este boala secolului 21, trebuie să începem să lucrăm cu vibrații înalte de iubire. Ăsta este leacul. Dar m-ați întrebat cu ce se vindecă și cum se... Că asta este tema emisiunii, este despre cauzele și tratamentul depresiv.
Să renunțăm, scuzați-mă, să renunțăm la furie, iritabilitate, mânie, ură, energii negative,
stresante,
sunt ale ficatului.
Da.
Ficatul fiind încărcat energetic de la rinichi. Deci când funcționează în exces ficatul, cu alte cuvinte, slăbește energia rinichiului.
Și însemnând, de fapt, sediul urii, pentru că ficatul este sediul urii, este inversul iubirii. Deci, cu alte cuvinte, cine are o patologie pe rinichi și are o patologie pe ficat, trebuie să știți că va ajunge la depresie și trebuie să știți că este pe inversul iubirii acest lucru. Cu alte cuvinte, noi trebuie să începem să ajungem la un echilibru, că nu spune nimeni acum că nu o să avem teamă, că știi, ați văzut și în filmulețe. Normal, mai avem, dar trebuie să fie scurt. Bineînțeles că avem și furie, că poate suntem colerici, eu sunt o persoană puternică, dar sunt dominatoare și mă mai înfurii, dar știți că durează la mine scurt? Și dacă noi știm să oprim acest lucru, să ne ținem în frâu cu aceste emoții negative, noi avem puține șanse să facem depresii, să știți. Și deci, cu alte cuvinte, vindecarea depresiei, tratamentul, leacul pentru depresie, leacul pentru întreaga societate care trebuie să se schimbe, pentru secolul 21, un singur leac există, în ghilimele, iubire. Vibrații înalte de iubire. Și acum o să încheiem această emisiune despre depresie, dar și despre iubire, cu ultimul filmuleț.
In the United States, the medical profession is the leading cause of death. Statistics. It's called iatrogenic illness. I go to the doctor with complaint A, get treated, and then die from problem B. And I'm dying from the treatment. 300,000 people a year die from prescription drugs. If we had that many people die from illegal drugs, they'd have police on every corner looking for those illegal drugs. 300,000 people die from a commercial prescription drug, and we call that the cost of doing medicine. I think that cost is so far excessive, and it's actually inhuman and morally reprehensible.
Well, you know, at a surface level, we may question, well, what's wrong with taking an antidepressant like Prozac? You know, all these SSRI drugs are doing is blocking off the natural reuptake of serotonin so that it stays in the synapse longer. But that is a very simplistic understanding of what these drugs do and the complexity of our biology.
The good thing about pharmaceutical drugs is they have side effects, so therefore once you have a side effect, then we have a pill for that too. And we can increase your usage of our products as long as you stay on them. And so I'm thinking that we shouldn't go there too soon.
Our conventional medical model says, well, the body is a biochemical machine. So leave the cells in a very bad environment, but if I change the chemicals in the body, then the body will withstand the bad environment. Very simplistic and very incorrect. Because the body is an entanglement of chemistry that is not a simple A goes to B, goes to C, and if B is wrong, you replace B and you fix it. That's the way we operate. It turns out A connects to B, to C, to D, E, F, and G, and all of a sudden, there's nothing linear. Everything is entangled. When you try to throw a chemical in an entangled mess, you affect maybe what you were looking for, but you also affect a lot of other things you weren't trying to affect. And that's why all prescription drugs come with a large number of pages called side effects. The most important understanding about this is these are not side effects. That's a euphemism. That's to make it say, oh yeah, this medicine was to cure A, and unfortunately it will kill you by doing B. But don't worry, that's a side effect. And the reality is, I'll have to just admit the truth, there is no side effect. Everything is a direct effect.
Pharmaceutical drugs override your body's systems. That's what they're designed to do. You have the real thing, when your body's finished using it, just keeps flushing it out. When you have a patented synthetic, it can't flush it out, so that synthetic keeps working and working and working long after you didn't need it anymore. And that's what brings about the side effects. There are a lot of things that we can do to help people before they reach for the Prozac.
But unfortunately, you know, we have been conditioned to expect from our doctor that bit of paper with a medication, a chemical. And I think we've got to be very careful that medication isn't suppressing our feelings. If actually our feelings are at the roots of ourselves and our immune system, and very closely associated with our feelings, and that chronic illnesses may be due to feelings that haven't been expressed, we've got to be terribly careful that the medication that we're using isn't doing this very thing and suppressing those feelings.
I had a series of losses. I lost my home and my business. I had cancer, a couple of surgeries. I had 10 car accidents. My sister had AIDS, and the culmination of that was my partner of 20 years left. And I plummeted. For the first time in my life, I really plummeted. I had weathered the other storms quite well. And when I went to my doctor, she said, well, you know, this has been going on for some weeks now, and, you know, I really think you need to be on something. And I said to her, my first response was, well, actually, you know, no, I don't want to take anything. I've had an awful lot of losses. Help me deal with my grief.
I've had sisters that have been battling with mental illnesses, and I've seen them just chucked on all kinds of medications, and I've seen them so sedated. And I decided for myself through seeing my sisters that I'm sure that it had a lot to do with me getting my counselling and healing. I wanted to do that first because, and if it was going to work, then I was going to roll with that. The thought of having a pill, to me, I knew it wouldn't be fixing anything. It would just be not only sedating me, but it would just be keeping me in a state where I'm not learning anything, where I'm not getting the real reasons of why everything is happening. And Lord knows what the pill was going to do in long-term effect to myself.
My son was born with mental and physical handicap, and it was undiagnosed, so it was quite an unknown area. So for about 3 or 4 months, we were dealing with, you know, was he going to live, was he going to die, resuscitating on a daily basis. So naturally, life was traumatic. Doctors were wonderful, they were helpful, they were caring, but they were looking for a solution to me as well, not just to the son. And so about 3.5 months into it, they offered me some pills. Just one day they just said, you're sad, you're miserable, here's some pills that might make you feel better. Their intentions were good, but when I went home that night I was thinking, am I really supposed to feel better? I mean, my son is going to die, whether it's tomorrow or in 5 years, he's going to die. Maybe I'm supposed to feel the depression, and maybe I'm going to be better for him if I'm actually alert and feeling, even if it's crying. And I had worked with people who'd been on pills, and I knew that sometimes it suppresses your personality. And I thought, do I want my son to have a foggy, non-Dana holding him? Or do I want him to have a real, true, sad mother holding him who's loving him? And so I decided, no, I'm not going to take the pills. But a week later, I was really tired of being sad. You know, I wasn't happy, and I thought, well, just sitting in this place wasn't really working either. So I started thinking, what can I do? And action has always kind of been my thing. For me, whenever I feel low, just act somehow to get myself moving. So I found a treadmill that was in the staff room in the hospital that somebody told me that they'd give me the key. And I just started jogging in the morning and running, and I started noticing that I was feeling better, especially when I got past that 15 minutes. So from that point, everything's changed for me, where it's about finding things in your natural environment that feel good to you, that remind you that you have control and you have choices. What concerned me so much was that they weren't discussing with me my options or even talking to me about why I might be feeling that and what may come out even out of the pills. It was just a quick fix, which really is not the answer to personal development.
There's been tons of people that have told me, hey, look, I've been depressed. All you need to do is just get on antidepressants. Lots of people. Some of them told me that I could be on it for a short time, for a long time. But I'm very lucky. I went to my doctor and I said to him, do I need to go on the meds? And he said to me, well, how do you feel? And at the time I had just begun counselling, which was which was part of my great discovery of letting go and undoing. And I said to him, well, look, I'm doing really well with this right now. I can feel a change in my well-being. And he said, well, carry on with this. And if it's working, stick with it. If it's not working, then we'll turn to the meds. So I was actually very lucky that I had a doctor that did not shove pills at me.
We bought a belief system that medicine knows, that they tell us what works, and then whatever the doctor says, the doctor is the boss, and we take these things without questioning. And it turns out it's time to question.
We're asking what is wrong, and when we ask that question, it implies what's wrong is going to stay wrong, and then we need to have a fix for it. So in so many situations, what's wrong seems to be a chemical imbalance, that the body's no longer producing some chemical, whether or not it's a digestive enzyme or it's a hormone that helps to regulate the menstrual cycle, or whether or not it's actually perhaps a chemical that affects mood in the brain. And when that diagnosis is made, like, let's ask what's wrong, oh, this is missing, that leads to the natural solution of, let's give you a medication to supplement that brokenness, that deficiency. But that presupposes that the body is never going to be capable of manufacturing that substance again. Now, what I like to ask is, what could be right?
What could I be doing differently? What is the gift in all of this? What can I learn today about my body that can assist me in my process of growth?
The question creates awareness and generates possibility, and from there we can choose.
So when it comes to the healing side of things, it's the same principle. If we want to, we can play a part. But we need to play a part not from a point of ignorance, but from a point of understanding how healing happens and how we can have an impact on our own, which actually means not always taking somebody's advice from the outside or popping some sort of pill or having some sort of treatment, because there is enough research on the planet today to show that that is not always necessary.
Being on medication is not right or wrong, it's individual choice. And you will know for you when and if the right time is that you want to come off medication. The key is to do it with support and do it safely, as many people will experience diarrhea, dizziness, panic attacks. So seek advice first on how to go about that.
With the rise of naturopathic medicine, we've almost gone way off on a tangent of popping pills that way. So we've gone from this popping a pill from pharmaceuticals into this pro-popping vitamins and nutrients, when really it's not about popping pills, it's about feeding the body what it needs.
Take a petri dish and take it from a healthy environment, put it in a bad environment, and cells get sick and die. Take your skin-covered petri dish, take it from a healthy environment, put it into a bad environment, your cells are going to get sick and have a disease or they're going to die. And then what we have done mistakenly is say, well, stay in the bad environment, adjust the chemistry. The new biology says, no, take yourself out of that bad environment, or your perception of that bad environment. Do not respond perceptually to that bad environment, and you will make different chemistry to the same stimulus.
That means you have to be greater than the conditions in your life, be greater than the environment. No longer allow the environment to control your thinking, but now to have your thinking and feeling begin to dictate your environment.
Even in the States, they recognize 90% of illness and office visits by doctors are due to a person's lifestyle. And you say, well, if that's true, wouldn't the mission of the medical profession to be to teach them, if your lifestyle's bad, then I should teach you how to have a better lifestyle?
As doctors, healers, nurses, therapists, life coaches, we are aware of our being and how powerful that is as another human being in this process. Not a dominant person, but as a connected person.
You know, there's a whole list of conditions that officially are incurable. And whether or not it's a psychological disorder or an autoimmune disorder, you know, autoimmune disorders are basically mostly classified as incurable. And when I can shut down my inner filter, my editor, my left brain saying, you know, I've read in the newspaper that it's not possible to cure that, then magic happens.
The healing process is pretty well always a heart-opening process, where we go back into almost the processes, a little microcosm of their life, where they come to us almost expecting us to be a parent, a caring parent, where we show compassion. And then through the process, where they then receive compassion, they learn that how to receive compassion in their lives as well. And so we, first of all, engage our hearts, and then we put our heads together, basically, how we're going to do this.
I toured with Patch Adams a few years back. We were compassionate clowns, and one of my best experiences of that was the Deaf, Dumb and Blind Institute in Moscow. Walking into the facility, had only come 3 or 4 doors into the room, and a little girl in a blue velvet dress came and took my hand and led me off to the side to another room, pulled me down and sat me on the floor and started playing with my earrings on my left ear. And I'm just present and waiting for getting a sense of what's going to happen, where is this going. And there was just this quiet moment of connectedness, but sensing, eager, waiting. And then she started to hum, and I could tell by the tonal quality of her voice that she was deaf. And she hummed for a time, and then she stopped, and she's still playing with my earrings. And I thought, oh, my turn. So I hummed. And she hummed, and I hummed for 45 minutes. And it's the only time in my life, for 45 minutes consistently, where I have had no other thoughts.
I found through meditation, I used to just think that they were a bunch of hippies, but in part of my self-discovery, I'll always remember my first meditation that I had. For the first time, as I sat there, I just thought, okay, I'm breathing. I'm listening to my breathing. I do notice my thoughts are stopping. Well, wait a minute, there's me thinking. Okay, just breathe. And so after a while, I think it was about an hour, I stopped, and for the first time in my 33 years, I heard no thoughts. No thoughts. And I felt like, even my room, I felt like I was seeing my room for the first time. I almost felt like I guess what happened was the true essence of me came on the outside, because it was like seeing everything for the first time, and I finally felt the silence and the presence and the peace. I understood that that's exactly what nature was.
Now is the only moment you can experience right now. Love is the highest state to exist in that now moment.
And we know that if the word love isn't used a lot in our early childhood, there's a higher instance in heart disease and blood pressure later on in life. We know if a child is abandoned, even though that abandonment may not be deliberate, that will lead to an increase of certain chemicals in the body. One is called C-reactive protein, and this is a marker of inflammation. So that marker of inflammation could lead to heart disease, and they have shown that for children who have felt abandoned. Okay? And of course, you know, a child cannot discriminate. It can't work out why it's being abandoned. Even we're talking about in the first year of life, and even there's evidence now that that extends to when the baby's in the womb as well. Now, I believe through awareness, we can actually, we can change this. We can change this by knowing about it. And it can't come just from our heads. It can't come from an academic training. It has to come from a compassionate heart. And then we add in our academic training to that.
As a child, growing up, it had to be one of the most hardest experiences, because there was no hope and there was no belief that I was actually somebody, that I wasn't told that I was smart, I wasn't told that I was beautiful. In fact, opposite, I was told that I wasn't beautiful. So, you know, when you turn to your parents or your family, and that's the place where you're supposed to get your foundation, I didn't. So it's not till later, when I realised of trying so many things that didn't work, that I found within myself that through healing, that I was the one that could heal myself. And if I was the one that could heal myself, then that meant that I was the one that could love myself. And that's when I discovered, so does that mean, I questioned to myself, does that mean that I could parent myself? And I thought, and so I gave it a go in little different ways, and that's when I really realised I actually hold everything within me that's been missing, that I could actually give back to myself.
You cannot change what has happened in the past, but you can change how you choose to respond to it now. As an adult now, with all the resources that you have, you can embrace the love and the intelligence that you are.
The grown me now, I can tell the little camellia inside that I love her very much, and that I'm here for her, and that I'm her advocate, and that she can leave it all to me now, as opposed to how it was. I had no idea looking back that it was little camellia leading her through such a turmoil time, trying to turn to substances and everything. I had no idea that it was the little hurt camellia just trying to find her way. So it's really good to know now that I can hold the key, and that I can parent her, and that when she's loved in return, that we both work together.
So the deep healing process takes us almost back to our childhood, to an ideal childhood when our hearts are open, and that we're being listened to, and that we're being cared for. And then we learn to care for ourselves. And for some people this can happen very quickly, and others it may take a year or two. but ultimately it's the basis of healing. And it's heart-based, and it's compassion-based, and it's empathy-based. And that's where we should start.
I believe that the majority of physical healing does occur through emotional healing, which I feel is simply the opening of the heart. When you get the real lesson that's sitting inside the challenge that you're facing, crisis becomes a blessing, and suddenly a whole new set of possibilities opens up. As we're about to see, this is not only limited to the curing of mental illness, but also to cancers, tumours and other physical disease. We've been believing that these are genetically imprinted within us, but are they?
We've been giving genes powers of turning on and turning off. Oh, a cancer gene turned on, a cancer gene turned off, this gene turned on, and all of a sudden we see, oh my God, genes are making these decisions and turning on and off. We've said that for 50 years. But scientifically, that was never proven, and now it turns out to be totally false for a simple reason. A gene is a blueprint, just like a blueprint in an architect's office. It's a blueprint to make the protein building blocks, and those are the subunits that come together and make our body. So our bodies are proteins, and the traits and characters of our body are the traits and characters of proteins, and the proteins are created using blueprints called genes. Well, the important understanding about this, when I say a gene turns on, a gene turns off, I'm suggesting that blueprints have self-actualization. Blueprints make decisions. And I say, well, does that seem reasonable? So I go, let's go to an architect's office. Here's an architect, and the architect's working on a blueprint. I stand over her shoulder and I ask her, excuse me, the blueprint you're working on, is that on or off? And she looks at me and goes like, what are you talking about? There's no on and off, it's a blueprint. I go, precisely. A gene is a blueprint. It has no on or off. It's either, like a blueprint, it's either read or not read. But the blueprint doesn't have an action. The blueprint doesn't make a decision. It has no power other than a blueprint. I mean, if we think genes work the way they do as blueprints, then that would give blueprints powers to regulate. If that was true, then an architect could take the blueprints, drive by a building site, throw the blueprints into the lot, drive away, and the structure will genetically assemble into the building. Well, we say that about the human, but it turns out it's all a misperception. It was completely misunderstood. We now know that there's a contractor that selects the blueprints and can modify the blueprints, that our contractor acts through a process, a mechanism called epigenetics. It controls which genes are read and how they are read. Now here's an exciting reality. Epigenetic mechanisms mean I can control the reading of the gene. By how? Through my perception of the environment. I read what I need in my mind, and my mind sends signals to my biology to adjust my genes to make my body match the needs of the world that I live in.
When we start learning and experiencing how we can adjust our internal programming, we realize not just at a cognitive level that genes are not in control of our biology, but we realize at an experiential level that we are in control of how we choose to express the genes of our biology.
When a child is adopted into a family that has cancer running in it, the adopted child will get the cancer with the same propensity as a natural genetic sibling, even though it came from totally different genetic stock. The propagation of the cancer wasn't genetic, it was behavioral. It's based on epigenetics. And then you say, well, what's the difference? And the difference is, if genes control your life, genetic control, the belief that we've been programmed with, I'm a victim. Why? I can't change the genes. But epigenetic control says, no, wait, my perception is adjusting and causing the reading of my genes. Then if I change my perception, I change my genetic readout, and the answer is yes. And all of a sudden it says, well, wait, genetics makes me a victim. Epigenetics gives me the opportunity to be the master.
I see a lot of people with cancer. I don't particularly like the term that the person is fighting cancer, and yet on our media we feel this every day, that we are cancer survivors, we're losing our fight to cancer, which sometimes means that we're dying. I think these are all terms that I think are becoming outdated, and from my experience from treating with people with cancers, how they face their condition is unique to themselves, and how they heal is unique to themselves. And in fact, we should be focusing on the strength of the person and encouraging them to accept help often from loved ones, and us to play a role in that. Those things are far more important than a fight.
Dr. Dean Ornish, a cardiovascular physician in San Francisco, was working with cardiovascular patients, just like all other doctors do. And what he did is, like all other doctors, gave them the complete regimen of all the pharmaceutical drugs to maintain and keep them healthy as best they could with their cardiovascular disease. But he started working on this, and he realized he took a group of patients in an experiment that was published in a journal. And he said, rather than giving them chemicals and drugs, I'm going to teach them a better diet. I'm going to give them ways to deal with stress that are much better, teach them some meditation techniques, social skills, work on teaching them a different way of life. No drugs. The result, in the drug-treated group, which is conventional, if the drugs can stop the degeneration, that's called success. In the treatment group that Ornish worked with, no drugs, changed lifestyle, not only did the patient's degeneration stop, the patients regenerated their cardiovascular system. That doesn't happen in the pharmaceutical model. And the reason why that was important was it was not chemistry, it was lifestyle.
If you do the treatment, your life may be extended to 6 months, and if not, you may only have 3 weeks. Very dangerous words. Do your research, because there is case after case after case of people who have decided against the treatment and instead changed lifestyle, and 15, 20 years later, after being diagnosed terminal, are living a healthy life.
We talk about somebody who's terminally ill, and everybody's counting this person out. Oh my God, they got cancer, they're gonna die. Look, they're dying here in the hospital bed. And then this person expresses what we call a spontaneous remission. And we say, well, what was that all about? Well, medicine can't really deal with it because there's nothing in the medical conventional textbooks to explain how can somebody be terminally ill with a cancer and then next day not have the cancer. Because in genetics, genes control, genes cause cancer, you die from cancer. But now we find out, guess what? When people have a spontaneous remission, it's because they had a profound belief change. And when they have that profound belief change, the belief change changes their physiology. And in the response to that physiological change, they actually, in the belief change, can change the readout of the gene and make it read normal again.
But once we've lived with the idea that certain conditions are hard or incurable, then we're not open to seeing miracles because we think we know everything.
The word illness perhaps is integral to experiencing wellness. And if we look at the word illness and draw it in capital letters, and then we just tag on a few short strokes right at the beginning, illness miraculously transforms and becomes wellness. Illness is not to be feared, is not to be resisted, is not to be fought, but to be embraced as an opportunity for growth and an opportunity to get us on the path, either to wellness or of wellness. And I think that's the real gift in illness.
One of the most important steps in shifting from illness to wellness is shifting our focus from our external environment to our internal environment.
The environment is very seductive. And of course you can accumulate more things, you could buy more things, you could do more things, but we reach a certain point in our life, in our late 30s and 40s, when you realize that none of that's going to make you feel better. And that, of course, is the midlife crisis. So what do? Do you go out and buy more things? Do you go out and drink? Do you go out and use drugs? Do you go out and gamble? Do you do pornography? Do you video game? What do people do? Anything outside of us to make that feeling go away immediately. And so the moment we can do something to make that emptiness or that fear or that anxiety go away or that depression go away, the moment we notice whatever we took or whatever we drank or whatever game we played or whatever we did, the moment we notice whatever it was out there that made us feel better, we're going to associate that change in feeling with that thing outside of us. The problem is, just like the video gaming, it's going to take more the next time you do it. A little more gambling, a little bit more shopping, a little bit more of a drug, because the receptor sites on the outside of the cells become desensitized. So it's going to take more of a rush of chemistry to turn them on. It's like living with a spouse that always yells at you. Over time, you don't hear them any longer, so they have to yell louder. And this is exactly how the receptor sites work. So people then become more and more unhappy because now they're relying on something outside of them.
I guess my most turmoil times were basically all around just trying to get further and further away from who I thought I was, which was something worthless. So that involved going to drugs, going to alcohol, all addictions, sexual addictions, drug addictions. And there was a part of me that wanted to be really tough and not to feel. And those things worked, but only for a while. I loved them, but in return, I saw that I was getting no love from them. And it wasn't until I really reached my rock bottom that I realized this is not working. And it may have worked for a while, but you need to start all over again.
You hear people say things like, he makes me so angry. Well, you know, that's not possible. He can't possibly make you angry. You choose to be angry. He might do things that don't fit with your paradigm. However, it's a choice that you have made to be angry as based on what he did. And so many of us are blaming people and circumstances for who we are and how we feel. And that would mean that for you to feel better, you would have to send everyone in the world to the psychiatrist for you to feel better. And I don't think that would work.
No. The person who looks down at that emotion and says, I give up. I can't go on. I never loved you. I don't love myself. I can't go on agreeing any longer because I'm unhappy. And they begin to tell the truth. And they break all of their emotional agreements and contracts with everybody in their life that they used to feel suffering with, or they used to feel important with, or they used to complain with. They begin to stop all of that because it's no longer working, and they realize they're stuck. The moment they begin to look at that and they begin to tell the truth and they begin to surrender, that's the metamorphosis, that's the change now.
If we change our perceptions, we change our physiology. I'd rather change my perceptions than to take a drug and change my chemistry, which is then the lethal part.
Whilst natural therapies and medication have a different process, they're both still about treating illness. There needs to be a paradigm shift where it's not about treating illness, but about educating wellness, teaching the steps at a very young age to self-care, setting up belief structures about the body's innate ability to self-heal. It is not the doctor's or the therapist's responsibility. It is the responsibility of each and every one of us to ensure that we create growth, we maintain, and we heal our bodies.
Teaching the brain and body how to bring itself back to normal or recalibrate it is, I think, the future of mental health.
I know when I experienced stress, anxiety, and burnout in my life that I was so busy building an army to fight my battles that I hadn't even stopped to take the time to consider that there might be an alternative way. I used to think that I have to fight my way through everything and fight my way through life with my fists up just in case something was to suddenly pop up and hurt me. What kind of a perception is that? I've learned through understanding the power of the mind that actually my outcomes in life are massively determined by the perceptions that I hold. So when you come to the crossroads in your life, which you will inevitably do at some point, what are you going to choose? Are you going to take the same old beaten track, the one that you've been 1,000 times before, being who you were yesterday, today, or are you going to take the new path, the road less traveled, which may look rocky and rough, but actually opens the door to a whole new set of learnings, new set of insights, and a refreshing perspective on life?
Things that people can do. Natural therapies, for example, gosh, they have their own alphabet. CBT, EFT, NLP, DBT. But whatever you decide that you are going to do, the first step is making a decision that you are going to move in a different direction. And that secondly, that you are going to take action.
Action itself creates that feeling that you have options and control, okay? Depression is feeling that you have no control over your life, okay? So, for instance, I'll just use my son as an example. He didn't learn very well because of his mental and physical handicap. So if he was laying down on a blanket, we found it difficult to get him to learn to grasp his toys. The minute we got him a standing frame and got him upright, psychologically he was in a state to move. And so we would, within 2 days, he would be grasping a toy. Where laying on the ground is a state of inaction. So psychologically we would move, whether it's just going out and getting a pram and going for a walk, it's moving, and then we start thinking of forward movement. And when you're thinking forward and of your future and what you're going to do next, you're out of the victim state and into doing things for your life.
Depression doesn't live on the ceiling, so stand up, look up, get moving, and that will get your heart pumping.
So the heart has in fact three main functions. The one we know, it's pumping the blood and oxygen, CO2 and all these things. The second one is to create this electromagnetic field around. And another function also, the heart is a hormonal gland, so it produces a lot of hormones that affects also the brain and other function in the body. So the heart is a very, very complex organ that has a lot of actions everywhere, including our health, including our emotions and our mood. And so it's not only here, but emotion happens also here.
When people have an idea, they're passionate about it, or they come up with a creative idea. It's something that is heartfelt.
Jump into the mindset of a child again and dream without limitation.
My children, they love to be outside, and you come in, in the evening, and you walk out to the porch and you yell, "Hey, come on guys, it's time to come in and eat." And they say, "I'm not hungry." And then you say, "Well, it's cold outside, come on in, put a jacket on." "I'm not cold." And then you say, okay, well, listen, you're filthy, you're dirty, look at you, come on in, take a bath." "I don't care." "Well, it's getting late, you gotta go to bed." "I'm not tired." In other words, they're so immersed in the experience, they're so in the present moment that they never want it to end. That is the state of creation. Adults, you say, "Hey, come on in, it's time to eat." They say, "All right, I'm coming right now. It's cold, all right, bring me something." We live in, such a contracted state that we're missing the moment a lot of time.
There are processes out there that allow you to become the director of your own movie, where you can edit the past and create your future at a whole new level of awareness.
The great thing that comes from being aware is I have a chance to grow and be enlightened. So after I write what I'm aware of, then I write pretty much what I'm discovering and what I'm learning from that. So I have my awareness, little paragraphs, and my enlightenment. So that's much better than writing and keeping myself an identity of the victim Camellia. What is the victim Camellia feeling today? No. What is Camellia aware of today?
Now, in a state of creation, when we're truly creating, when we're inspired about a vision, a dream, when we're thinking about possibility, when we're speculating on inventing something new, if we're doing it properly, as we begin to contemplate and reflect on a possibility, the whole chemistry of the brain changes. The hindbrain begins to cool off and the forebrain begins to turn on. And the forebrain is the executive. That's the seat of the you and the me. That's the boss of the brain.
When we access the frontal lobe and are focused on creating the future rather than dwelling on the past, all other parts of the brain come into alignment. And no longer are we operating out of the emotional part of the brain, but out of a higher level of consciousness, inner strength and power.
But for me, the most exciting people who testify of God's power are those that get into the state of religious ecstasy and say that God protects them to the extent that they drink strychnine in toxic doses with the belief that this poison will not affect me because God will protect me. So they're unshakable in that belief. And guess what? They drink the strychnine with absolutely no harmful effects. And the relevance is, well, how did that work? And the answer is, we are more powerful than we've ever been given credit for. That we have the power of our mind to control what we do with our biology. Walking across a bed of hot coals, fire, is a belief system. You don't believe you can walk across a fire, don't do it, because if you do, you're gonna burn yourself. The ones that don't burn themselves are the ones that walk across with a total unshakable belief that this is okay.
Go out and do things that are going to create an I can do it belief in yourself. rock climb, abseil off the side of a building. If you've never been horse riding, jump on a horse, jump into life, move through your perceived limitations.
So my point of view creates my reality. So how many points of view do I have, or do you have, that create your reality? And it's about just seeing those and making a demand to change them.
You know, the space up here in your mind is your space. So what are you going to choose to fill it with? And what you no longer want to have up there, empty it out. Let it go. You know, our brains have neuroplasticity, which means that we can prune away old connections and create new connections. So, you know, are you really going to argue for your limitations? Oh, you know, I've tried that before and it didn't work. Well, really? According to whom? Are you really going to allow your limitations of your past to prevent you and to limit you from creating your future? Let it go. Create a new reality.
When we deliver ourselves from our own limitations and we fall in love with who we're becoming, we're more prone to give. We're more prone to contribute. We're more prone to make a difference. We're more prone to decide how we are going to change the course of history.
We are our own world. We have everything within us. We are unlimited.
You're not a victim of your biology, you are a master of your biology, and with mastery, you will become empowered and change the world.
Every cell in the body is a vibration of energy, and food, which is made up of cells, live living food, is also a vibration of energy.
Diet, an alkalizing diet, basically fruits and veggies, and if you can go raw, every chance you get, raw veggies.
2 handfuls of cashew nuts a day gives you the equivalent dose of taking a Prozac. Again, we're in this mentality that fats are bad when this type of fat is good.
The best chocolate that supports both our health and our taste buds has 2 tablespoons of coconut oil, 2 tablespoons of cocoa or natural cacao ground up, 1 packet of pitted soaked dates, 1 jar of almond butter.
By feeding the body a healthy diet, sometimes that doesn't matter if the thinking's poison.
A lot of what we think is done at a subconscious level, so start bringing those thoughts up into your conscious awareness.
The first time I started to notice my inner thoughts, my inner dialogue, the best way that worked for me was to just write down anything that came in my head.
How do I no longer want to think? How do I no longer want to act today? How am I going to be different?
Because once again, all the teachers all down through the ages have always said, what you think about the most is what you become.
Feelings that are buried alive never die.
I discovered within myself that if I'm feeling this is for a reason. That's where the awareness comes into searching what is it within me. I'm aware that these feelings are here, and then I start asking questions, and that's where I become enlightened.
You know, it's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel sad. It is okay to feel nervous. Feelings are not about being suppressed and held on to. We need to acknowledge our feelings and release them.
Our bodies are made for moving. Our mind's made for thinking. Body's made for moving.
Being a mum, it's great to know that I could just dance in my room. Doesn't cost anything. Just put on my CD and dance.
Research is showing that people who are active to the point that they are stimulating their muscles as well as their heart and lungs just to increase them a bit each day are proving more productive at work, having more successful relationships, and saying that they're happy.
We are anchored to our environment, so our environment needs to be supportive to us.
Disorder can cause disharmony in the way that we feel.
You know, sometimes it's as easy as adjusting your perception to your environment or just getting out. But I realise that for some people that are in a violent environment, sometimes it's not as easy as just getting up and walking out. But know that there are options.
The spiritual path of self is basically where you come into the conscious awareness of the present moment. You become consciously aware of being present.
One thing the breath does, especially if we breathe like a baby does, down to our tummy, is that we take a focus away from the spinning brain into a state of being.
There is nothing to seek in life. It is just a case of remembering who you are. And who you are is unconditional love. And that love resides in the space in between your thoughts. It is a place where energy just flows. It is a place that has no language. It is a place that is not doing, but rather being.
Dragi telespectatori, emisiunea noastră a ajuns la final și de această dată am primit informații constructive. Până data viitoare vă doresc toate cele bune, să aveți parte de zile minunate. La revedere!